Hello guys, it's me, Yukishiro, and tonight, because it's already 9 p.m, we gonna react to Wuthering Waves lore by Conferni. Subscribe to Conferni guys. Subscribe to Conferni guys for doing some lore CCs guys. And also subscribe to other lore CC enjoyers, just like Life Lesson Gaming, Extra Wavy, and others. Without further ado, let's watch the video. The
Lars
Easter eggs for
can be a
Septimont.
little confusing at times, especially because of how early we are into the game, so navigating the map can be overwhelming to say the least. For example, Raguna and Minnesota are not actually the same place, but rather Raguna is a city within the nation of Minnesota.
Okay, that's actually insane that it has a different nation in just one batch.
Think of it as similar to how Jinzo is one of the many cities in Honlang. But what exactly
Just
is
like
Septimont?
Black Shirts
Ultimately,
and
Minnesota
Jinjo,
consists
right?
of 3 city-states, Raguna, Septimont, and Lilyland, all of which we can expect to visit,
Lilyland?
hopefully this year.
Wait.
And although Septimont's introduction may appear to be
Basically, we
random,
can get
Septimont
it
has not
into
appeared out of
12.8.
nowhere. It has actually been mentioned around Raguna a
Maybe?
few times by many NPCs and characters. With the release of 2.2, players were able to explore the new area called Ball Waters, and located within the south of the map, players can see what appears to be a very tall structure in the distance. Many speculated that this structure may be part of Septimont. In Lupa's drift marketing, the same building can be seen behind her, confirming that that area that we can already see in the game is...
That's actually insane details by Kuro guys.
actually Septimont. The same building can also be seen in the background of Carlotta's Siniskin reveal, which could mean we may get to see Carlotta again in the main story, or at least in the city itself. But of course, this is only a small glimpse into what we can expect of the aesthetics of Septimont. So today, we are going to be discussing what we know so far about Septimont, what we can expect it to be like that, and some theories involving the city sentinel or lack thereof. With that being said, let's get into the video. The name Septimont is something which holds a great importance. Septimont derives from the term Septimonte, and in Latin it can be translated to 7 hills or 7 mountains. But why is this important? Well, Septimonte is often associated with the city of Rome, and a defining feature of Rome is that it was built on 7 hills. The 7 hills being Palatine, Capitoline, Aventine, Salian, Esquiline, Quirinal, and Viminal. Because of this, it is safe to say that the city of Septimont is based on Rome, specifically ancient Rome. In one of the transcripts you can collect in Raguna, there is one called Essays on the Ragunesi Drama, with the description reading, a comprehensive study of the history of Ragunesi Drama, the evolution of tribal culture fusion and faith systems. Although the transcript is mostly centered on Ragunesi culture, it also provides an insight into Septimont culture, with the abstract mentioning
So basically, it has Raguna or Rinasita and Septimont has different cultures.
Paper reviews recent research trends and developments regarding the origins of drama culture in both Raguna and Septimont. The paper also mentions that during the Age of 1,000 Islands, people used costumes to represent the origins of different tribes, masks to symbolize ancestors and totems, and various tribal languages to interact and communicate with one another during the carnival in the form of drama. This can be related to an in real-life celebration called the Septimontium. The Septimontium was originally a proto-urban festival that occurred typically within the month of September in ancient Rome. During this time, the 7 communities residing in what we now refer to as the city of Rome would come together in celebration. In the world of Wuthering Waves, this celebration allowed the separate tribes or factions residing in Minnesota to gain a mutual understanding and respect of one another, with the blending of communities through the art of drama. The celebration was never a blessing promised by the Order, but a commemoration and symbol developed independently by the people of Minnesota. There are a few NPCs who provide us with a small insight into what Septimont is truly like, and from what we can gather so far, Septimont appears to be quite different to the city of Raguna. As we know, Raguna is a city essentially dictated by
The question is Raguna will gonna be is Order gonna be gonna have a connection at Septimont or the Order has a shady businesses at Septimont? Who knows? Because Cristoforo is here at Septimont, and we all know Cristoforo is related, or the simply put, Proxidus. All the Proxidus has a connection at the Order. Maybe the Order has to do why the Proxidus has a role at Septimont, or the Order has a major role. Are they planning something, and the Septimont is their part of their plan?
The driving force of faith, with the Order of the Deep at its core. With Raguna being a twisted theocracy, it makes sense as to why we don't have a huge amount of information when it comes to other cities in Minnesota. It basically comes down to the Order's firm and tight grip on the people of Raguna, as well as, you know, the Leviathan literally brainwashing everyone. But something that is...
Bro, like the Order, if you do the 2.31, the Order brainwashing so many people, believing that their own God is true, and anyone who are against them shall be exiled by committing blasphemy. That is ridiculous, guys. And
What's worth making note of is that when speaking with a woman named Joanne, she explains that like Raguna, Septimont is an autonomous city-state under Minnesota. The shipping routes between the two aren't tightly regulated, but
why?
Well, it turns out that according to Joanne, Minnesota is a nation of 1,000 islands. Goods are sent to Septimont in exchange for large amounts of tacitite that Raguna needs. If you don't know what tacitite is, it is a substance that can permanently hold remnant energy, and it can also be used to create weapons to combat tacit discords. Another person who mentions Septimont is a member of the false troop named Lexia.
Tacitite?
Another person who mentions Septimont is a member used to create weapons to combat tacit discords. Another person who mentions Septimont is a member of the false troop named Lexia. Lexia mentions that the people in Septimont prefer plays like the 300 Knights of Capitoline, which could be a reference to one of the Seven Hills, and Assassin's Journey, which could be a reference to Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, which was based on late 15th century Italy. Both are plays centered around intense action, historical sagas, and war, because according to Lexia, that's just what the people of Septimont are into. One thing that I found quite interesting involves the Phasalia family, specifically information that can be found in the quest item named a Transgressor's Transcript. The transcript mentions that after the death of the first Primus Napoli, things in Raguna took a turn for the worse. Doctrines, statutes, proverbs, the entire foundation of Raguna completely changed in the blink of an eye. The Phasalia family were mostly unaffected by the whispers of the Leviathan, but these changes were too much for even them to bear. Ultimately, the whispers became harder to battle. As a result, some of the Phasalias abandoned the family and became followers of the Order, but some of them ventured to Septimont and never spoke of the faith again. This further supports the idea that Septimont is not only different to Raguna, but seems to be operating separately entirely, seemingly untouched by both Imperator and the Leviathan, which begs the question, does Septimont have a sentinel? Whether we're...
That's the question, because...
Recently...
That's actually true. Does Septimont has a sentinel too? Oh, cause Septimont is different nation, right?
Announced the upcoming 5-star Lupa, and through her job marketing, we are provided...
Don't tell me Lupa is one of a sentinel. Okay.
With all the tiniest
of... I'm not sure.
Comes involving Septimont. One of the biggest things that stood out was the Septimont logo. The logo appears to portray a creature with wings. This creature can also be seen in the background of Carlotta's summer skin.
It's just a summer skin, but they tease us with their Easter eggs.
In Roman mythology, there are a few mythological creatures who have wings, the most common and notable ones being the griffin and the sphinx, both of which have the body of a lion. The griffin is typically depicted as a creature with the body of a lion and the head and wings of an eagle, often associated with guarding treasure, protection, military power, and courage, whereas the sphinx is typically depicted as having the body of a lion and the head of a woman, sometimes with wings. The sphinx this is usually associated with art, architecture, and warding off evil. Now, based on the characteristics we know of the people of Septimont already, it would make sense for the creature depicted in the logo to be that of a griffin. But is the griffin-like creature potentially Septimont's sentinel?
Alright.
Or is it merely a symbol of Septimont itself? Of course, at this current moment, that is just something we don't know. However, I personally do hope that they do have a sentinel. The only problem is, if
The only problem is...
Septimont does have their very own sentinel, why didn't it help?
Or, Septimont has the same sentinel. Like, Raguna or Rinasita and Septimont is related and it has the same sentinel. So, okay, so basically Fleur de Lis or Cartitia is their own, imperator, guys.
For good
Their own resonator at their nation.
or even imperator. Now, this theory is based on if Septimont has a sentinel. So let me take you back to the 1.1 story quest. During the final arc of the 1.1 story quest, Dway, the Sentinel of Jinzu, reveals that Ruva was their previous master, which is where Ruva acquired the famous Arbiter title from. The term Arbiter defines as a person who settles a dispute or has ultimate authority in a matter. And during the 2.2 story quest, we also see this title used by Imperator. Unlike Dway, who had to ask the Ruva for their permission to transfer their power to Jinshi, Imperator had made a pact with Ruva, and with this pact,
I think Rinasita and Septimont has the same imperator. Or wait, Septimont. Don't tell me. Rinasita is Sentinel, and Septimont is Trinojan. Basically, they hate the Sentinel, but they love Trinojan. Basically, if you can see the 2.4 trailer, where Lupa face while fighting Cartitia, Lupa face is just upset or mad. So, she knows that Cartitia is their own the Imperator Resonator, and Lupa believe or praise the Trinojan. Who knows? I don't know what
they
I'm
would be
talking
able
about.
to act freely, and because of this, they merged with the Leviathan in order to fulfill the task Ruva appointed to them.
Who knows? Lupa praise the Leviathan, or the Septimont people praise the Leviathan. Who knows?
Task being, what is the true nature of the Thenodian? I could literally go on for a good hour about why I personally don't trust Rova, and why I think their entire existence is hella shady.
Basically, Rover is gonna be the main villain of Wonder Waves at the end.
But I'll save that for another
Whoa.
time. What if one of the many restrictions Rovo tends to place onto the Sentinels also involves the Sentinels being unable to interact with one another, and as a result are unable to intervene with each other's duties? With Imperator, Rover had given them a task to complete, and this may be the case with the other Sentinels. And maybe, in order for each Sentinel to complete their task successfully, they are not allowed to assist or interact with each other. Something that supports this theory is that during the 2.2 main story quest, Cantarella asks Rover to contact Ray, in hopes that they would be able to help Imperator. In this moment, the Rover has 3 options to respond with. 1. A Sentinel cannot leave its commissioned region.
Okay.
2. Dway leaving Jinzo would be a betrayal of its duty.
It is if one Sentinel will leave, it's just a betrayal of duty. It is.
3.
If one Sentinel abandoned their nation, their people will get mad or angry with the Sentinel that provoke war.
Dewey is still in the middle of recovery, so maybe if Septimont does have a sentinel, it may have not been able to intervene with Imperator's duty. Of course, something that kind of disproves this theory is that surely if there were another sentinel in Minnesota, the in-game information would not reference Imperator as the sole sentinel of the nation. The only other nation we know that is confirmed to have several sentinels is Huanlong, where it is said that all of the sentinels were once one being.
Interesting.
However, they were split apart into 7 sentinels, with each guarding a city of the nation of Huanlong. But then again, I guess it could be possible that this could be the case for Venezuela. Only time can tell. Well, with that being said, we have reached the
Solaris words is interesting, just like Tiba.
end of our time together today. Please feel free to let me know in the comments your personal thoughts and theories on what we discussed today. And as always, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you in the next one, guys. Take care. Bye.
Guys, thank you for watching my reaction, and I'm having a research about the Waterways lore. Subscribe to Conferini and all other Waterways lore content creators. That's it, guys. Thank you for watching. See you in my next one. Bye.